Why you feel mentally tired all the time. This is the focus of today's episode from Grow with Aziza. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Well, over the last few episodes, we have been talking about anxiety, overthinking, worrying about the future, calming an anxious mind, why your brain assumes the worst, and why so many of us can't stop thinking before bed. Today, I want to talk about something that many people experience but struggle to explain, which is mental exhaustion. Have you ever slept for 8 hours and still woke up feeling drained? Have you ever finished a normal day and felt completely exhausted, even though you did not do anything physically demanding? Have you ever thought, why am I always mentally exhausted? Why do I feel tired all the time? Why does my brain feel so heavy? Why do I have no energy to do anything? If you have ever asked yourself such questions, I'm here to tell you you are not alone. Because today we are going to talk about something many people don't realize. Sometimes you are not tired because you have done too much. You are tired because your mind has never stopped working. When people hear the word mental exhaustion, they often imagine someone working 16 hours a day, but that is not always what causes it. I have actually met people who work long hours and still have energy. And I have met people who barely leave the house but feel completely drained. Why? Because mental exhaustion is not only about what you do, it is basically about what your mind carries. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack, all right? If you carry it for 10 minutes, you will probably be okay. But if you carry it all day, your shoulders begin to ache. Now imagine your backpack is not filled with books. It is filled with worries, fear of failure, fear of judgment. It is filled with unanswered questions, overthinking, guilt, regret. It is filled with future anxiety and people's opinions. Every day, your mind picks up another stone and puts it into that backpack. At first, you don't notice. Then weeks pass, months pass, sometimes years pass. And one day you wake up and think, I don't know why I'm so tired. Your brain never truly switches off. It is always checking questions like, did I say the wrong thing? What if they misunderstood me? Did I make the right decision? What if tomorrow goes badly? What if someone says something bad to me? What if something happens? Notice something? Your brain is acting like a security guard working 24 hours a day. It never clocks out. Even when nothing dangerous is happening, it is still searching for danger. At first, it feels like you are being responsible, but after a while, your nervous system becomes exhausted. Not because you have been running, but because your mind never sat down. Something else I have actually noticed is that many people who are mentally exhausted don't actually give themselves permission to rest. They stop working, but they don't stop thinking. There is a difference. It is like your laptop, for example. Your laptop is closed, but the tabs are running. It's like putting your laptop into the sleeping mode, but the tabs are running. The same thing, your mind. Your mind is working 24 hours, although you are sleeping on bed. your mind is still in yesterday's meeting, for example. Maybe you are watching something, all right? Maybe you are on your phone, but your mind is still working. Your mind is planning for tomorrow. Maybe you are with your friends, but your mind is thinking about something else. Maybe you are eating dinner, but your mind is replaying a conversation from the morning. So the thing is that you are physically resting, but mentally you are still working. And your brain doesn't know the difference. As far as it is concerned, the workday never ended. I think this is why so many people say, I don't enjoy anything anymore. Well, it is not always because they have lost interest. Sometimes their mind has simply run out of energy. When your brain spends all day worrying, predicting, analyzing, and protecting you, it has very little energy left for joy. Think about your phone, for example. If you leave 10 apps running in the background all day, what happens? The battery drains faster. Your mind actually works the same way. Every unfinished worry, every unresolved fear, every imaginary conversation, every what if question runs quietly in the background, even when you are not paying attention to it. And eventually, your mental battery becomes low. One thing I wish more people understood is that overthinking is work. Worrying is work. Trying to predict the future is work. Trying to make everyone happy is work. Trying to control everything is work. Just because nobody can see it doesn't mean your brain is not working incredibly hard. That is why you can spend an entire day sitting at home and still feel exhausted by the evening. Why? Because your mind never had a break. So, what does a psychologically healthy mind do differently? It doesn't stop caring, it doesn't stop planning, it doesn't stop thinking, but it knows when enough is enough. It knows the difference between solving a problem and living inside a problem. It knows the difference between preparing for tomorrow and sacrificing today. It knows when to say, I have thought about this enough and I will continue tomorrow. That isn't laziness, by the way. Really, that is not laziness. That is emotional regulation. It is actually teaching your brain that it doesn't have to stay on high alert every minute of every day. I also think we need to stop feeling guilty for resting, and this is really important. Some people rest physically but spend the entire time feeling guilty. Like, for example, I should be doing something, I am wasting time, everyone else is working harder, and stuff like that. That is not rest. That is guilt wearing comfortable clothes. Real rest is when your body and your mind are both given permission to pause. And that permission is something many adults were never taught, unfortunately. If you have been feeling mentally exhausted lately, I don't want your first question to be, what is wrong with me? No, no, no. Instead, ask yourself this question: what has my mind been carrying? Maybe it has been carrying too much responsibility, maybe too much fear, too much uncertainty, too many expectations, maybe too much pressure to be perfect. Sometimes the answer is not that you are weak. Sometimes the answer is that you have been carrying more than anyone was meant to carry alone. Remember that. Sometimes the answer is that you have been carrying more than anyone was meant to carry alone. At the end of the day, mental exhaustion is not always a sign that you need to do less. Sometimes it is a sign that you need to carry less. You need to carry less guilt, less overthinking, less pressure, less fear, and less responsibility for things you can't control. You can't control. Remember that. Less responsibility for things you can't control. Because peace doesn't come from having an empty schedule, it comes from having a lighter mind. Really. So, if this episode resonated with you, please don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who might be feeling mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, or overwhelmed by anxiety and overthinking. And remember, your mind was never designed to carry the weight of every possible problem. Sometimes healing begins not by becoming stronger, but by finally putting some of that weight down. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a great day and take care. Bye bye.